All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the uniquely UCF Sociology Virtual Open House. I'm Dr. Tim Hawthorne. I'm an associate professor of geographic informations in the Department of Sociology, and I'm also the graduate program director as well. So, again, I want to thank you for taking the time to learn more about our exciting programs and the people that make the programs possible and helpful for all of our colleagues. So we're very excited that you are considering joining our learning community as either a master's student or a PhD student. We are thrilled you are here, and we hope that today convinces you to formalize that application and finalize it to our program. We have a great list of panelists today that will cover a variety of topics, what we like to consider the points of pride for the Department of Sociology as well. And so you will hear from a variety of students who are in the trenches, engaged in amazing research and teaching activities within our department. They're going to share their experience with you as well. We also will be sharing from both the student and faculty perspective more considerations for research around sort of theoretical work in our department, applied work in our department, and also the different methods that are offered in our department as well. We also will have a dialogue about the different ways in which the department supports and encourages diverse career paths, including those in the academic and non-academic paths as well. So again, we're just very excited all of you are here. Just as Bridget has pointed out in the chat, please do add in your questions or your comments into the dialog box. We will get to those. We have a larger Q&A plan for the end of this conversation, but certainly please add your questions in. We'll do our best to address them as we can, and we'll bring them up again in the Q&A and dialogue as well. I also wanted to open by just saying thank you all for even considering graduate school in this really unique moment in time. We all recognize that we are in the midst of a global pandemic. We also recognize, especially as social scientists and sociologists, that we are in a major moment of sort of social unrest and social injustice that continues to happen around us here in the United States and for that matter around the world as well, but especially here in the States. So we appreciate the delicacy of the moment that we're all in. We also want you to know that in spite of all of those things, and probably in some ways because of those things, I think in many ways it is a really ideal time to be a student in sociology, specifically because we're at the point as academics in these careers that we're choosing to follow either in the academic or non-academic world to address many of the issues that we're seeing exposed and exacerbated by the pandemic and all the other social injustice issues that we're dealing with as a country right now as well. So I think in many ways that positions all of you that are considering our graduate program to be part of those conversations and part of the actions and solutions that will remedy some of these injustices that are happening as well. So in that sense, I'm very excited to welcome all of you into our learning community, to share with you a little bit more about our points of pride and to introduce you to our people, because at the end of the day, I think what is really exciting about our department is the people that make it work. And so today you'll be hearing from a lot of different folks from a lot of different areas to share more about what they do in our department and how they can support you and work with you if you choose to join us as well. So without further ado, I'd like to get to the formal program. And just to reiterate the formal program, so what we'll do is we'll have a series of 5-minute kind of lightning talks around specific topics. I'll introduce each speaker and the general topic that they are speaking of. And then again, please feel free to add questions or comments into the chat. And then after those sessions at around 2:45, we'll have an open dialogue where we can get more specific questions and moderation led by a couple of our graduate students to answer your questions as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, uh, Bridget Burke, who is our graduate admissions coordinator and does many, many things to make our graduate program a better place. So Bridget, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Hawthorne. Welcome to our open house. I'm extremely excited that everybody joined us today. As Dr. Hawthorne said, my name is Bridget Burke, and I am the graduate admissions coordinator here in the Department of Sociology. My main job is to guide students through the admissions process, which sometimes can be a little bit daunting, as well as assist students with any questions or concerns they have during their entire time in the program. I hope that you can gain some valuable information today at our open house that will help inform your graduate school decisions and hopefully guide you to apply for one of our programs. As Dr. Hawthorne stated, if you have any questions, you're welcome to post them in the chat, and we're also going to have a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, just feel free to use one of those methods, or you can always email me. I posted my email address in the chat. So if there's something that you don't remember to ask during the meeting, you can always email me and I'm happy to follow up with you afterwards. Again, thank you for joining us, and I will send it back over to Dr. Hawthorne.
Thank you very much, Bridget. And Bridget reminded me as well, one of the things we want to encourage each of you as you're considering finalizing your application to our program is please do reach out to us. Both Bridget and I have already had conversations with some of you as applicants, but we would love to informally connect with each of you individually on a one-on-one basis over Zoom or another preferred method to just talk through your questions and explore your interests, and also potentially connect you with other faculty that could serve as mentors or could provide input into your decision as you think about applying to our program as well. So thanks for that reminder, Bridget. Next, I have the great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who will also be welcoming you all to today's event, and that is Ashley Stone. Ashley is the founding president of the Sociology Graduate Student Association. Ashley, take it away, please.
Thank you, Dr. Hawthorne. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Ashley Stone, and I am a third-year doctoral student and the founding president of the Sociology Graduate Student Association, also known as SGSA. On behalf of the organization, I would like to welcome you all to this virtual open house and thank you for considering the Department of Sociology at UCF. As an organization, we just celebrated our one-year anniversary, and our first year was very busy, joyfully busy, coordinating professional development workshops and a host of other activities to further develop our community as graduate students. Our work, however, is an extension of the efforts that have been made by several faculty and graduate students over several years to create this intentional space for engagement. So that spirit of collaboration between faculty and graduate students is the core of our department. It has been around long before SGSA existed, but it is what makes us unique. In addition, SGSA has been a space for graduate students to not only develop professionally and begin to collaborate with other graduate students, but also to engage in an opportunity to expand their capability as leaders. So since we're talking about graduate students, I'll give you a snapshot of a few of us who are on the call, but also some who are not on the call today. I want to emphasize that by enrolling in our graduate program, you'd be joining a pretty active and accomplished group of rising sociologists. So there are three things that I want you to know about us before you leave today. The first is that we all bring diverse knowledge from an array of academic backgrounds, including African American studies, communication, psychology, and women and gender studies, just to name a few areas. And like our professional and academic backgrounds, our research interests are also diverse. So graduate students are currently researching food insecurity, crime and deviance, third wave feminism and hip hop, accessibility of resources for survivors of domestic violence, and the effects of the hidden curriculum in higher education. Second, we are involved in several professional organizations that are centered on sociological thought. So in addition to initiating SGSA, we hold memberships in the Southern Sociological Society, the American Sociological Association, the Society for the Study of Social Problems, and Sociologists for Women in Society. Finally, I want to emphasize that we are a group of high achievers. Graduate students in our department have been on both the Dean's List and the President's List. We've been recognized for our excellence in graduate student teaching, and we are the recipient of a number of prestigious fellowships. So I could go on about all the achievements of the students in this program, my peers, but we will be sitting here for several days. I know you all have things to do, so I'll stop here. But I do want to mention that for all of you, as prospective students, what you are bringing to the table will be enhanced by your time in this department. All the talent and skill sets that you bring will be enhanced by graduate students and other faculty who are here to support you, whether you're going on the academic track or not, to support you in developing into the professional that you want to be. So today's open house will give you a snapshot of who we are as a department. I encourage you to take notes, and as Dr. Hawthorne and Bridget have said, please ask questions during the Q&A at the end. And if you still have questions after the event, please circle back and question us. We look forward to it. We welcome it. And I hope that during this event, you not only see the opportunities that the program has to offer, but that you also see yourself and your future reflected in our department. Once again, to all the prospective students on the call, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Thank you for that warm introduction, Ashley, and for listing some of the accomplishments of so many in our department. I want to underscore what Ashley mentioned, that is, we have a department full of amazing people. And it is my pleasure to now turn to the next part of our program, which is to talk about our points of pride. And so one of the things that you may have seen in the invitation to this event is that we are focused on this phrase called uniquely UCF sociology. We want to express how unique of a moment this is for you to potentially join our department. And we want to share with you the many ways in which we are all trying to be and explore the idea of what it means to be uniquely UCF sociology. So we have put together a snapshot of some of the items that we consider to be our points of pride. And what we will do in the next few panels here is 5-minute lightning talks around a specific theme. So it is my pleasure to introduce the first topic in our lightning talk of points of pride, and that is focused on the strong mentoring relationships that develop between our faculty, our staff, and our graduate student colleagues. And it is my pleasure to introduce one of our current graduate students, B. Ben Jalot, to talk a little bit more about this particular theme. B, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm B. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, good. I'm a second-year graduate student, and I am here to talk a little bit about my experience as a student in the sociology department with mentoring and faculty that have mentored me. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I had somewhat of a circuitous path to get to graduate school. I took some time off between undergraduate education to my graduate studies. And while I was taking time off, I worked as a biostatistician at UCF College of Medicine. And so I mentioned that because one of the things that I feel is important to kind of think about when you're seeking a mentor, when you're building your, what I call your mentorship network, is to never miss an opportunity to make connections and maintain those connections. So when I came to UCF as a graduate student, I had colleagues that had served as professional mentors to me at the College of Medicine, one which connected me then to two of our faculty members at the sociology department, Dr. Shannon Carter and Dr. Scott Carter. And so you never know when there'll be an opportunity for that network to get a little bit larger. So if I could give anybody any advice ever on mentorship would be, don't seek just one mentor, but really, really build a mentor network of people. And that could be people that offer you skill sets that you don't have, or people that are really good at nurturing skill sets that you already have. And so I'm a second-year student, and in my time at in our program, I've currently being mentored by Dr. Shannon Carter. Her and Scott Carter are working on a project together about transgender non-conforming youth. That's a collaboration with the College of Medicine. Another opportunity that has arisen for me is with Dr. Amanda Kuntz, and that arose from a summer course that I took with her. One of the things that I think is very unique and very special about our faculty and our program in general is that every course that I've taken, we have been given an opportunity to not just do a project for the course itself, but to do a project of something that's of interest to you. And so for all the courses that I've taken so far, I've been able to have that particular faculty member mentor me or help me to either submit an abstract or work on a publication. And I think I've benefited greatly. I can see from all the faculty that I've so far worked with, everybody has a different style. And but I think that that's so important for you as a graduate student as you begin to build that, like, mentorship network. I am happy to hear and see that you guys are all interested in our program. If you have any questions about the program or what has been kind of what I've done in my coursework for the past 2 years, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Bea, for that overview on mentoring and your own experiences with it. We appreciate that very much. Next in our lightning talk round is another current PhD student in our department, and that is Lane Graham. Lane is going to be sharing with us a little bit about the ways in which the department supports both academic and non-academic career paths. So Lane, please take it away.
Thanks, Tim. So I came to UCF for a number of different reasons, but one of them was what we just heard about from Bea, and that is the power of strong mentorship. So I knew Dr. Hawthorne prior to coming to UCF, and that was one of the reasons why I chose this particular program. And just to introduce myself, I am a fourth year PhD student, or candidate rather, and I have been working for about 2 years in an industry capacity supporting environmental work, and specifically around GIS. So I want to introduce a little bit about that work and my background and why I chose that, and how you, as a graduate student thinking about this program, will have similar opportunities, and just some considerations as you're going through, thinking about your career path, both in academia or in applied work. So I came on board under a program that Dr. Hawthorne has been running for some time. It's applied work that takes place in Belize, specifically in Hopkins Village, and this really framed my dissertation research. So I was privileged to be able to be a member of a research team as a PhD student and a graduate research assistant working in the GIS lab right off of campus. And I was able to work with a variety of people from different backgrounds, different specialties, and students from all over the country that were interested in research. This really helped not only to develop my GIS skills, but also my ability to teach, to convey information, to assist and enable research projects for the next generation, to enable people to start to think about the power of being more than just a scientist or a researcher, but part of a broader scientific community, and to think about the community in which we live, but also the ones in which we work. So this was an incredible project that has really shaped who I am as a researcher today. And I just want to give you all kind of a sneak peek of what that looks like in terms of the field work. So this is the area that we were working in. This is in Hopkins Village, is in Central America. It's a small country about the size of Vermont. And we were able to work there over the course of the summer. This is a 7-week applied program. So during this program, we conducted field work in the community around a couple of key components based on the NSF grant that Dr. Hawthorne and others had secured. So we were collecting information on flooding and disaster management and preparedness in the community, as well as marine debris. So there were when I first started, 2 research tracks. And so this is just one of many opportunities to engage with professors in our department on projects where that you can go and get applied fieldwork experience that will translate into a career path. And so especially during this time when you're starting to think about a career and your next steps, and even your motivations for getting a graduate degree, you're not limited in terms of academic positions, but you're also not limited in terms of applied work. So you can have a combination of both of these things. And I've been able to benefit from living in that realm. So having a foot in the door in academia, but also staying involved more in applied work, supporting ongoing projects. And so that just gives you a sneak peek into the type of work that you could do, and not just with Dr. Hawthorne, but in our department in applied work. And I just wanted to give you another quick preview into another project that we did. And this is more in the local community. So working with students of all ages, but with a focus on K through 12 and part of this STEM outreach program. And this has really been one of the things that's helped me as a scholar to think about that next generation and conveying information that could be beneficial, not only to me as a researcher and in applied work, but instilling that interest and curiosity in the next generation and applying those skills. So in my work today, I work for Esri, which is the largest GIS firm in the world, and I support a variety of customers, the main ones of which are the United States Census Bureau and EPA, so Environmental Protection Agency. I just wanted to highlight a couple of projects that I have done recently for them, just to show you what a day of the life looks like from this perspective. And in my role here, I serve as a solution engineer on the National Government Sciences team. So I work daily with federal agencies to help them utilize spatial and demographic information and to visualize it geospatially. So if you're not involved in GIS, please consider it as an additional area of study. So here, this is focusing on the COVID-19 pandemic, and these are resources from Census that are going out to all of the public to help to display the impacts, to show where the most impact has been to small businesses, and where the surveys that are conducted year-round by Census, where that data lives, how it's distributed. And so this is really that open data platform to be able to start to ingest information and use it in meaningful ways across the United States, especially amid a pandemic. So this is just some of the work that I have done with Census. And just to highlight, I've been working with EPA in the field to conduct data collection and visualization around oceans dumping. So we've been working with them to identify areas where waste disposal has been occurring, to map those areas and to visualize them to help understand the potential environmental implications. And so with that, I encourage you to reach out to the people that you're interested in, talk to them about their ongoing projects and your own interests, and see where that alignment might occur to help you not only invest in yourself while you're in the department going through this process, but help invest in that next step, whether it be academia or otherwise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lane, for that overview of your work and your experience bridging the academic and non-academic communities. I appreciate that very much. Next up on our list is one of our faculty colleagues, Dr. Scott Carter. Dr. Carter is going to speak a little bit to the idea of how collaborative writing between faculty and students occurs within our department. So Scott, take it away. Oh, you're still muted.
All right, thanks, Tim. I don't know how I'm going to follow that. That was a really good presentation, so I'll do my best though. So I was asked to talk about collaboration in writing at UCF, and I think, and I was thinking about the idea, and what it came to me is collaboration is expected when you come to UCF. When you come into this department, know that you're a contributor to the department, so you're going to be asked to collaborate. You're a graduate student now, and you're going to work with other students and other faculty. That's kind of the expectation as you go in. Whether you're, completing your master's degree or whether you're a PhD student, you're going to find yourself working with faculty and with other students. So if you kind of have that expectation and that's part of your job, then I think it will make it easier to reach out and talk to faculty and to start working and improving your writing, because I think we all need to work with others to improve our writings, including myself. And when you work with others, it will definitely help you streamline and improve your writing. So that's always a really important aspect of collaborating. Okay, so why is collaborating important? Why do we see it as so important? Well, student to student faculty collaboration is key for all of us to succeed at UCF. It's one of the most important aspects of our jobs. It's the heart and soul of our graduate program. Faculty are better when their research and classes are infused with new ideas, with graduate students who have energy. A lot of times we faculty may not have the energy or the new ideas, and when you come in, you are able to share with us some of your life experiences, and that kind of motivates us to work harder. Students are better when faculty show them what we've been studying over the past few years. When we share the mistakes and successes we've had, when we share, I think students become better and develop more, and it helps them. The department is better when graduate students represent us at conferences, when you write presentations, when you conduct presentations, write papers, and after graduation, you represent UCF in the academy or outside the academy. Finally, I think the university is better for the same reasons. When we have better graduate students, better writers, publishers, I think it gets UCF and sociology out there. And I want to add that collaboration at UCF is promoted like no other university I've worked with. We like to write and work with our students. And I think if you're really interested in improving your writing, improving your skills in that area, you will do so in our department because we promote it. It is what we do. And I think it makes us all better when we work with each other. So I think what I'm saying is that it's very important that students in the sociology department reach out and to work with faculty. And not just on your master's thesis or on your dissertation, but on things like papers, presentations. The writing, writing is a learned skill, right? It's something that you develop throughout your life. I had a professor who was 65 years old, and he showed me a paper that was just ripped up by a journal, and he said, "I'm forever learning." And I think when you work with faculty and faculty work with you, we're gonna, it's a learning process that we learn from each other. And if you go into this program thinking it is part of my job to work, write, and write with the faculty, then I think that will make it easier. I think that then you see it differently, right? Then your job will be then to find faculty with similar interests. How do you find that? You can find our interests on our web page. It is your job, it is part of your job to reach out to faculty. And it's part of our job to discuss research with you. So don't be nervous about reaching out. It's part of your job and it's part of our job. That's what we expect of ourselves. And that's what you can expect of yourself, is to work with faculty when you get here. And that includes writing. Writing is going to be a big part of your growth, is learning to write in this unique way of publishing and presenting, which is very different than normal writing that normal people do this for fun. So it's a lot different. So please, consider it part of your job as it is part of our job. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Scott, for those comments and for talking about the ways in which writing is supported and collaboration is supported. We appreciate that very much. Next up on our conversation, we have sort of a dual lightning talk, and that is by Dr. Jackie Warner and Dr. Shannon Carter. They are going to speak to the diversity of research methodologies and approaches within our department. And part of the reason why we have two of them speaking is to talk specifically about sort of both qualitative and quantitative methodologies specifically. So Dr. Warner and Dr. Carter, please take it away.
Yeah, so thank you. My name is Jackie Warner. This is my second year at UCF, and I was hired for an interdisciplinary research cluster on violence against women. I work in sociology, but my background is in psychology, and I worked for a couple of years in a psychiatry department. All of that to say that the methodologies that I use really reflect this interdisciplinary background that I have. And I want to start by saying that there's no one methodology that's better than anything else, right? That it's all about us working from different perspectives, and kind of coming together and integrating information about different phenomena across these different methods. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the methods that I use because, you know, with a psychology background, I do things a little bit differently than a lot of people in sociology. You know, I certainly use a lot of survey methods, especially, you know, with the pandemic. But I just talk about a couple of other things that I do and their respective strengths. A lot of my work, I use an experimental design, which in short is when we randomly assign people to different conditions, which allows us to isolate, you know, variables of interest and make causal inferences, something that you can't really do with surveys. So you've probably heard, you know, correlation does not equal causation in some of your classes already. So this allows us to look at that causation. So for example, one thing that I address is how alcohol impacts sexual assault perpetration. So I will bring people into my lab and randomly assign them to either drink alcohol and get drunk or stay sober and look at the differences between the two groups on behaviors. And you can certainly, you know, send people surveys and ask them about alcohol use and sexually aggressive behaviors. But the thing that's really hard is that drinking is so intertwined with different social norms and expectations that how do you really know what's about the alcohol, the social situation, you know, being in a bar or something like that, or the type of person, like personality characteristics in that specific situations. So with experiments, we can kind of better figure out, you know, the extent to which something is really due to, you know, pharmacological effects of alcohol, for example, expectancies that people have, you know, or really something else where it exacerbates other risk factors. Some other stuff that I've done, another method is using virtual reality with sexual aggression that, again, in a lab setting, it can, you know, things don't always feel very real. And there's a lot of ethical considerations as well. So we developed a virtual dating simulation as a proxy for sexual aggression, where men go on virtual dates with women and see their behaviors on dates, particularly how they respond to sexual refusals. They get really angry, call her names, threaten to end the relationship and stuff like that, which is related to how people act in real life. I also use different behavioral tasks and biomarkers as well. So for example, you know, given all the racial injustice that's occurring in our society, you've probably heard about the idea of implicit bias and the implicit association test. I don't use that particular test, but I use things that are similar to it in my lab that kind of look at some of these more implicit processes that people have. So for example, something called the approach avoidance task, where we use a computerized joystick where different reaction times to pushing and pulling a joystick apparently reflect our automatic tendencies to approach and avoid different stimuli that is predictive of behavior often above and beyond our self-report. Actually, our intentions to engage in behavior is actually a pretty poor predictor of actual behavior. Like I said, I also use some biomarkers. So I'm interested in stress processes, like how social rejection can increase stress and impact behavior. So in some work, I've collected saliva samples and look at a stress hormone called cortisol, which is really interesting that we can see that people self-reported experiences of stress and these physiological indicators often don't correlate very well with each other, and they both are like very predictive of different aspects of our behavior. So kind of using these different methods together can really complement each other and give us a more comprehensive understanding of behavior. So like I said, these are just some kind of things that I do, but you know, people across our department use all kinds of really interesting methodology. So, you know, reach out to me for more information about this or to other people, you know, that are doing really cool stuff in our department. That can help answer research questions in a lot of really unique ways.
Hi, I'm Shannon Carter. I'm an associate professor in the department and also the associate chair. And thank you for that overview, Jackie. That's really exciting stuff. We learned so much about our colleagues at some of these events. But I wanted to talk about the broad array of qualitative methods that are used by faculty and students in the sociology department, and especially to highlight the multiple sources of data that involve both, you know, talking with human subjects, but also non-human subjects research, and all of which can be conducted during a pandemic. So if you're thinking about joining our program and you're concerned about being able to write a master's thesis or gather data for a dissertation, The pandemic certainly has caused some challenges, and people have maybe changed what they were going to do and designed a new project, but it certainly has not halted our ability to do research. So I'll just start with that. So there are lots of different qualitative methods, and qualitative methods in general are research methods that involve more in-depth data collection, more textual analysis or analysis of the ways that people talk about things, the kinds of meanings that they attribute to their lives. And so it's more about like the in-depth side of human life. And so we can do, when we're not in a pandemic, we can do ethnographic work where we go and spend time with people in their regular environments. Like, we don't bring them into a lab, but we go to where they are, where they do life, and observe them, maybe conduct qualitative interviews or focus groups. But some of those things, even if we're not participating in face-to-face social life, we can still do with technology. So Zoom offers a recording feature. This session is being recorded right now. And so many of our students have done interviews or focus groups using Zoom, and those have been very successful forms of data collection. It also allows us to reach out to people who are not necessarily geographically close to us, but maybe in other places. So if we want to conduct research on a particular group and we want them to be in specific locations or spread throughout the United States, these video features give us that opportunity. In addition to the kind of data collection strategies that use interaction with people, there are also a lot of forms of research that can focus on things that exist in society, like texts, images, media, and social media. And we have a lot of faculty and students who have used a variety of different data sources of things that just exist already, that don't require interaction with human subjects. So just to give a few examples, some faculty in our department have analyzed images in children's books of gender representations, racialized and gender representations in movies and TV shows. We have faculty who study art. We have faculty who study legal documents like laws and briefs submitted for Supreme Court cases. And we have faculty and students who've studied social media. So we have students who've written whole dissertations on representations on YouTube, for example. Or I have a paper under review with a student analyzing an Instagram hashtag and looking at the different ways that this particular hashtag is represented in social media. Things like blog posts, websites, other forms of social media, Twitter, pretty much anything. So I guess the point that I'm getting at is there are a lot of different things to study, and there are a lot of different ways to study it. And we have found ways to be very creative and continue a high level of research productivity, even during a pandemic. And so we would be happy to help you figure out some of those things too. Thank you.
Thank you to both Dr. Warner and Dr. Carter. And I also should add too, there are lots of opportunity to connect across methodologies as well. So it doesn't just have to be quantitative or qualitative, but we have several students doing really awesome mixed methods work with faculty as well. So if that's of interest, we'd love to explore those with each of you as well in your applications and questions you might have about those as well. Our last panelist before we get to the breakout room is Kayla Tui, who is a current graduate student, PhD student in our department, and she is going to speak to experiences with classroom teaching in the department. So Kayla, please take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kayla Tui, and I'm a third-year PhD student working along the crime and deviance track. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for considering joining our department along your academic journey. I appreciate the opportunity to speak among the wonderful members of the sociology department and see new names and faces among us today as we engage in this virtual open house. Today, among the uniquely UCF sociology points of pride, on the topic of experience teaching in the classroom, I will be discussing the theme, teaching as a learning experience. As someone who has been in a privileged position to teach undergraduate students throughout my time here at UCF, I approach teaching with the idea that each moment in fulfilling my obligations as a student's instructor is a learning moment for both myself and for my students. When I approach teaching as a learning experience, I see it as encompassing so many different aspects of being in the classroom. For instance, learning new things about my students every day makes me excited to be there with them on their educational journey as they pursue their goals. Additionally, staying as up to date as possible with our teaching materials helps to ensure that we are discussing interesting and relevant information as students endeavor to educate themselves and continue on their path. Students have continually renewed my motivation in this endeavor by bringing exciting new information to class and asking unique questions that come from their perspectives during our class discussions. Another way that teaching can be viewed as a learning experience is through the ways in which we as instructors learn more about the topics that we teach as we compose our lectures and have discussions with our students. Reviewing new empirical articles, textbooks, and other resources that we may incorporate within our teaching materials brings to light new information that reinforces things that we've already learned, which helps us to become better educators and make more meaningful connections with our students. Engaging with new students each semester and learning about how they view topics and relate material to their own experiences enhances the learning that we do within the classroom. Teaching is a learning experience that is brightened by the diverse array of perspectives that students bring into the classroom. My students teach me just as much as I hope I am able to teach them in our time together. Finally, I think teaching can be viewed as a learning experience when we consider the many different circumstances and scenarios that educators are expected to navigate. In the past year alone, with the transition to virtual learning, technological difficulties, access issues, individual learning needs, and students' experience levels have all played a role in the success of our overall ability to learn together in a virtual classroom environment. Teaching is a learning experience for everyone involved, and the lessons are never the same. Being a part of the sociology department has shown me how much our faculty, staff, and students are willing to adapt to meet the challenges that we continue to face while we are all pursuing educational endeavors during this difficult time. The open dialogue within the department and the scholarly efforts of department members in bringing awareness to current and ongoing issues regarding police brutality and the victimization of Black lives, as well as the ongoing global pandemic, shows the willingness of our leaders to face tragic and overwhelming social conditions as a community that appreciates their members' individual feelings and concerns. Teaching in the classroom as a graduate student in the Department of Sociology has helped to provide me with a wealth of experience and a different perspective in life than I had before I began. Teaching throughout your graduate career enhances your experiences as a student because you're able to learn more about the people around you and about yourself as you traverse the many different individual and societal circumstances you will encounter. It provides a platform for you to become more comfortable speaking in front of others, as well as a wealth of experience in a variety of different skill sets that you will employ as you move throughout your teaching journey. Teaching in the classroom may become one of your very favorite and most invaluable experiences that you have in grad school. I know it has been for me. Thank you all for being here today, and I hope you all enjoy the remainder of our open house.
Thank you, Kayla, for that information about teaching, and especially the comments about the changes that have happened and the opportunities and challenges that have happened with the virtual teaching as well. We appreciate that very much. Now we're to the final section of our open house today. Hopefully you are not completely overwhelmed with all the wonderful information that has been shared, but I'm certain there are many, many questions that you all have either individually or questions and comments you'd like to share with specific faculty or students that are on this call. So what we'd like to do now is we would like to break out into two separate breakout rooms. And what we will do is we have a moderator for each of them, and then both myself and Bridget Burke, our admissions coordinator, will be in either of the rooms to support any specific technical questions you might have. And we welcome an opportunity to invite you to those rooms to talk through your questions and your comments and to have an extended dialogue and really an opportunity to engage and interact with folks in a very unstructured way. So for each of those breakout rooms, we will have 2 moderators. The first breakout room will be moderated by Ashley Stone, who you've already met, our president of SGSA. And our second breakout room will be moderated by another wonderful PhD student, a PhD candidate in our department, Debbie Griffith as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Bridget to tell us how this is magically going to work. So Bridget, could you tell us about the next step?
Thank you, Dr. Hawthorne. Here in a few moments, I'm going to go ahead and open the breakout rooms. Everyone that's on this meeting will automatically be sorted into one of the 2 rooms. So you may see your screen do something a little odd there for a moment. So just hold on for just a second and I will go ahead and open the rooms.
Warner, Dr. Armado, and Bridget's here, so I don't have to answer any questions now. Great. So,
awesome.
but we'll just open the floor. Thank you to all the prospective students who joined. Again, this is informal. So we'll open the floor. We have faculty here. We have graduate students here, and Bridget, who is the master of all things grad programs. So, you know, the floor is open. Anyone who'd like to ask a question, you're welcome to do so at this time. So we'll go to plan B. So I would like to, and you're welcome to drop. Can they drop questions in the chat while we're in breakout mode and it will show up for everyone here?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So some people, their mics might not work either. So if the question is better for you to type it in, that's great. That's fine, and we can read it out. But I'm actually going to point to Mike because he's over here by my right side. Mike, I know people might know who you are. Do you want to briefly introduce, and then I'll ask Dr. Donnelly as well, to introduce yourself and what your role is in the department, and maybe a keen piece of insight for a prospective graduate student that you would share.
Ooh. Sure. So I am Mike Armado. I'm a faculty member in the department. I'm a lecturer, and I'm the director of the undergraduate program in sociology. This is my 5th year in the department. So I don't think I can say I'm new anymore. So let's see. So introduce myself. Here's what I do. I do a lot of different things. I'm on a ton of different. There's a whole bunch of other things that I do in the department that just happen. That's what happens when you're a faculty member. A keen piece of information for graduate students. I mean, you've already heard about mentorship, about kind of what the program offers you. But I think, you know, one of the things that I would love to see our students, and I'd love for us to cultivate in our students, and we are cultivating it, but really like develop it even further, is sort of all the professionalization stuff that we'd like to convey to our students. That means like, you know, presenting at conferences, but it also means like workshopping papers and just figuring out how to be a professional, and not just if you're on like an academic trajectory. I would say that it's important to work on the professionalization stuff so that you learn how to kind of communicate like your identity, who you are, to the field and engage with others who may be bringing similar or different things to the table, and just really not like just sit in a corner in silence and not be sure how to engage. Because I think those kind of professionalization skills are beneficial to you no matter what your career trajectory is. And I think they help you actually reorient your kind of how you think of yourself as a graduate student and really just as a person in the field, because grad school is kind of different than being an undergraduate student because it's a qualitatively different experience. I I think we want you to take up more space. We want you to have your own particular identity and ideas and to bring stuff to the table. So I would recommend anything you can do to cultivate, kind of professionalization and engagement to do that.
Thank you, Mike. And so you're a magician because now we have 2 questions in the chat, but I do want to, I know I used to work with undergrads. This is how it happens. So, but I would like for Dr. Donnelly to introduce herself and Dr. Warner to do a brief reintroduction, and then we can get to the 2 questions that are in the chat. So Dr. Donnelly, if you could take it away.
Sure, and I'll be brief to get to these questions. But hi, I'm Dr. Donnelly. I am an associate professor. I've been in this department for a long time. I won't say how long. And I'm the director of the Institute for Social and Behavioral Sciences, which is a community-based research institute housed within the department. And within that institute, we do a lot of different work that really crosses all of the areas of study within the department. And just briefly, what we're working on right now, this morning I was working with the local jail and developing a medically assisted treatment program for opioid addicts that'll focus on housing and other barriers treatment. Also working with Orange County to do an HIV prevention program, again, targeting people involved in substance use. My own research is in social inequalities, mostly poverty, homelessness, and food insecurity. But the best thing about working in the institute is you get to study lots of different things, and lots of students are involved in the institute. We have 3 fully funded PhD students, and then lots of hourly students that come on, and we are working with students to develop their own grant proposals. So as students are advancing in their PhD program, we're working with them to seek out their own funding sources beyond the department that'll allow them to be funded and work on their dissertation at the same time, and make them more competitive, whether they're going into the applied market or to the academic market.
Thank you, Dr. Donnelly.
My pleasure. That was fast.
It sounds like her whole CV, right? And so and you're a magician. We got some more questions. So I do want to have Dr. Warner introduce herself again and then get into the chat because people they got questions. So Dr. Warner, please take it away.
Hey, I'll be brief because I already just talked at you for a few minutes. But, the other one thing that I just want to mention, when you're thinking about applying to our sociology graduate program is to also think about all of the opportunities within UCF as a whole. Like I mentioned, I was hired for an interdisciplinary cluster, which means all of my collaborators in criminal justice, social work, population health sciences, things like that. So there's so many really cool things going on around the university that's not exclusive to our department. So I encourage you to kind of seek out those collaborations and ask people in our department to make those connections for you. And I've got another meeting at 3, so I'm going to hop off in just a couple of minutes, but anyone is always welcome to send me an email and ask any other questions that don't come up in this meeting today.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Warren. So let's get into it. These are long questions too. Okay, we're going to get through all of them, I promise. So let's start at the top. So the first question that came up, I have a bachelor's in criminal justice and I would like to know what I could be able to do in the sociology field. Thank you, smiley face. So criminal justice bachelor's, what can we do in sociology with that? Do our faculty want to respond?
I'll respond. I work closely with criminal justice faculty. What the sociologists are doing now is really looking at kind of those social factors that influence either perpetration, victimization, or like the project I just mentioned, reintegration, post-incarceration. I mean, so the important thing with sociology, it's a research degree, and so you're just focusing on social structures, institutions, group interactions. So you can really study anything that's being studied in criminal justice, but where they're really focused on procedure and things like that, and policing, things like that, we are more on the social side of that. But the topics a lot of times are exactly the same.
Thank you for that.
Jackie, I don't know if you want to add to, I know you work with criminal justice as well.
Yeah, I mean, part of, like I said, is that there's just a lot of room for kind of connecting with people across these different fields. So even if your degree is in sociology, there's definitely a lot of room to expand. And a lot of our faculty in sociology have a strong background in criminology. I my career path has been very academic focused, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask about, specific career paths outside of that. But yeah, definitely a lot of kind of opportunities to expand on those research interests that are relevant to criminal justice within the department. And then I'm going to jump off. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Warner. Thank you for joining, and thank you for your response. Thank you, Dr. Donnelly, for your response to that first question. So the next question we have, how do you go about looking into this program when you are a little late into the game? Example, you did not know or did not think about graduate school until your senior year. So what insights? I might pass that over to Mike, but I also have a resource if Mike wants to hold. But Mike, please respond.
I'll try to be brief. I think, grad school, you're not required to go immediately into grad school. It's kind of different. You can apply whenever it works for your life. And so if you are kind of getting into that late, that's okay. There's always, you could always just apply in the next round of applications. So that's not an issue. I think the bigger question is thinking through and talking with us as faculty and even some grad students about, what do you envision your path to be, and try to think about how a grad program might fit into that.
Thank you, Mike, for that. And I will just say, as a personal note, I applied to a master's program in the second to last semester, my penultimate semester before I graduated. So it's possible, and I did well. I think there are some resources, even if you don't utilize them for testing purposes. Kaplan has a large PDF. I think I still have it. Stephanie, if you would send me your email, if you want to privately message me, I can give you a PDF of what a timeline should look like for grad school, and you can just choose to accelerate it. And I think that the landscape looks a little bit different given that we're virtual right now. So there's some leniency, and I wouldn't worry so much. I don't think it's impossible at this point. And regarding this program, I encourage you to email Bridget. I'm pointing over here because that's where her window is on my screen, to contact Bridget regarding the steps to actually applying to this program and walking through those steps as necessary. And thank you, Mike, for that response as well. Bridget, did you want to add before we go to the next question?
Yes, I mean, we do have, we can accept applications for the upcoming academic year for fall of 21, all the way up to the 1st of August. If you're looking toward getting financial aid or funding through the department, the deadline is January 1st of this upcoming year. But if you want to reach out to me via email, I'd be happy to kind of walk you through that process. At this point, you haven't missed any deadlines, you haven't missed any opportunities or anything like that. All of that is still very open. We just got the application open for the upcoming academic year, so you're still in the time frame of being able to do that. So please just reach out to me via email, and I'd be more than happy to kind of walk you through what that process looks like.
Thank you, Bridget, for that. I'm so glad you're my partner in this group. Thank you so much. Next question that we have, are we able to combine sociology with another department in an interdisciplinary studies master's? I was poli-sci bachelor's and wanted to approximate a social policy focus. So is that possible?
I can answer that one. As far as the sociology master's is concerned, your electives do need to be within the sociology department. Sometimes we'll accept 1 or 2 classes from outside. I do know that interdisciplinary studies has several different tracks. One of them is social sciences, where you can combine those two. But for the sociology master's degree, your electives do need to be in the sociology department. I hope that kind of answers that for you.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Bridget. So our next question, and they keep coming in. So if thinking about taking a break between the bachelor's and the master's, what frame of time would you recommend as taking a break? What I mean is like 3 years or 2 years. I don't know what is the best. So whomever would like to respond about a break in between the BA and the master's.
I will. I think the time is less important, and more so the focus is really on what you're doing with that break. I mean, I think graduate school is a commitment, and you really want to be sure that you want to do it. And I think where I've encouraged many students who are kind of struggling between deciding in 3, do I want to go into sociology or do I want to become a social worker? I think one of the best things you can do is get out there and work and really kind of figure out what you want to do. before you commit to a master's program. And if you have kind of some ideas of what you think you want to study, you know, trying to find a position as closely aligned to that. One of my favorite students found out very, very quickly that she wanted to do research and not social work. You know, 1 week of working at a homeless shelter and crying every single day, she realized she needed to be behind the scenes. And I think that kind of thing is what you're looking for.
Thank you for that, Dr. Donnelly. And really quickly, so we're almost done with questions for now. But I wanted to also ask if B wanted to share, because B has an interdisciplinary background as well as had some time in between degrees, if I'm not mistaken. So B, did you want to also respond to that question?
Yeah, so I was given the advice that Dr. Donnelly just gave you guys today. I didn't take a break from my bachelor's to my master's, but I did take a 5-year break from my master's to my PhD degree. I already knew I wanted to get a doctoral degree, but I wasn't sure what area. So my background as an undergraduate is in psychology and child development. And my background in the master's, at the master's level, is in statistics. So I have a master's in statistics. Then I practiced my statistics for 5 years, and now I'm in sociology. And so for me, the time period was to figure out where kind of my passion was, what my pull was, and where I felt that I could do it like every day. So I liked research. I just wasn't focused on a particular area because I was so interdisciplinary. And as a statistician, I get to play with a lot of different data sets from multiple disciplines. And so I was excited all the time about what I was doing, but I wasn't. So I needed to spend a little bit more time in practice before I felt like I could kind of zero in my PhD into, you know, one program. So I would advise the same thing as somebody that's done it that way. It's what you do with the time in between is most important. And like Dr. Donnelly said, at some point I thought I would be a clinical psychologist. And so I've quickly figured out that that was not for me by working in a clinical setting. I also spent some time working for the Los Angeles Police Department because I liked criminal justice. I did that for 2 years and I quickly learned that that was not for me either. So I think really spending your time where you may see yourself long-term is really, really important.
Thank you for that, B. We've got questions still rolling in. This is so wonderful. So, okay, wait, I lost my place. So, hello, I'm interested in working in an international and multicultural environment, international organizations, possibly. How can this program help me advance toward that goal? This might be a Bridget question. If not, it's going to be a Mike question. If not, it's going to become an Amy question. If not, it'll become a B question real quick. No. Bridget, do you want to respond?
I can chime in a little bit on that. As you heard in the main session today, Lane was talking about some of the experience she had working in Belize, specifically with the GIS program. So you do get some international experience if you wanted to pursue something like that, as well as, you know, some of the other opportunities that sometimes come up through UCF Global. I know in the past we've done programs specifically, I want to say that it was in Ireland where they were studying the sociology of aging. That was another opportunity for students as well.
Yeah, and I think I would add to that if I could. I think the way a grad program works is there's a fair amount of structure, but then there's ways that, you know, you have to write papers or something. And so you can kind of tailor what you're doing. And then of course, with the goal of in a master's program, you're going to do a thesis, or you could do a non-thesis option if you do that other option. But in either case, you know, you get to tailor. The idea is that you have interests, and that we are here to impart you with particular kind of methodological and kind of area-based knowledge, methodological knowledge, and kind of knowledge of that sort. But then also knowledge around certain areas. But you have a significant input also in kind of tailoring certain aspects of that. And so if you're interested in particular types, I almost think that question could be specified. And if you were to meet with me one-on-one, I'd say, well, what kind of organizations are you thinking of? And in my office, I would do this. And I create these imaginary Venn diagrams where I'm like, okay, are there particular topics or issues that you're interested in? Or are there people or groups of people you're interested in? Where do those come together? And which kind of international organizations are you thinking about? Because when we think of topics, people, locations, then we can kind of focus and narrow it and realize that there might be opportunities through our curriculum to see like where you can plug in and like cultivate your kind of background information, kind of set the path for that trajectory. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. So the questions just keep rolling in. This is wonderful. And I do want to acknowledge Stephanie's comment in the chat about directing the question about admissions more so to having not maybe done a lot of research opportunities or internships and that impacting the chances of getting in. I think Stephanie, it'd be great for you to email Bridget, not to push that question off, but to email Bridget about that. I'm not sure what your background is, but I think there's a way to make yourself competitive. And if you're enrolling for the programs here, the graduate program, and applying, there are faculty who are going to be willing to work with you to develop your CV further in these areas to ensure that you are marketable when you graduate. And the fact that you're already here, you have a way in with faculty, as opposed to having to start from scratch coming from a different institution. So I hope that answers a little bit more. Stephanie, okay, Stephanie said thank you. Okay, good. I did great. Wonderful. Next question. We got 3 more. We're going to try to get through all of them. Question that came through email. What can I expect in my first semester as far as coursework? And I'm not sure if it was clarified whether that's for the master's or the PhD program. Myself and B can speak to the PhD program. Are we thinking more so master's, or was that not clarified in the question?
That was not clarified in the question.
Okay. So I think for Mike, if you want to go ahead and respond.
Well, I mean, or if Amy wanted to, I mean, they have to do the method sequence, right? I mean, Amy might know better specifically. Is it
Masters, the first semester you do the pro seminar course,
and
which is where you meet all the faculty and do some professional development and really kind of get a feel for the program. I believe you take methods and maybe
pick one
area elective.
Yep.
Does that sound right?
Yeah. And I often consider it to be one of the hardest semesters because it's like you're trying to get your sea legs, and it can be very overwhelming because I think we give you much more work than I think you've ever had and a lot more reading, and it's challenging. So I
think the work is so different from undergrad, right? You're not doing multiple choice quizzes and things like that. You're reading, a lot more reading, and then only meeting once a week and being prepared to be active for 3 hours in discussions. Yeah, I think it's just different.
Yeah.
I preferred it so much to undergrad.
I did too.
I definitely spent more time with my studies as a graduate student.
Awesome. In the interest of time, I'm going to try to get through the next 3 questions. So the next question that came through email was, are there any classes you recommend me taking as a sociology undergraduate to prepare me better for the master's degree in sociology?
If you are ECF, I just want to point out there is an ability to take up to 2 graduate courses, like elective courses, while you're in your senior year, which is a pretty unique program. If you're interested in that, I'm going to say reach out to Bridget. Sorry, Bridget.
And I would also add, if you are eligible, if you have the GPA to participate in the Honors College and do an honors thesis, that is a really good way to kind of get a feel for what doing that type of research and writing those types of papers would be. We have a lot of students that do pursue that honors thesis option prior to applying to graduate school. And that kind of speaks to the third question as well. You know, that would be something that would be really good to submit as a writing sample in your application, is something that you did either in your data analysis class, which is your capstone class, or your honors thesis. Both of those are kind of the framework to kind of prepare you for that level of writing and research.
I'll add to that. You reminded me too, Bridget. You can do, if you are at UCF, you can do directed research with a faculty member, which would give you research experience. And I have 4 undergraduates right now this semester doing directed research, and it just gives you kind of a good feel for what you'll be doing in a graduate program.
Yeah, and I would say even if you're coming from, I don't know if there would be people here who are from outside of sociology. If you can take sociology courses, great. But even if you do research in your own field, so the one thing we share is, right, we're kind of all social sciences or even from the sciences, just the whole process is an important thing. Anything you can do as an undergraduate to give you that experience is good.
Thank you, Bridget, Dr. Donnelly, and Dr. Armado for wrapping those 2 questions in one. We have another question coming in, but there's a question before that. I'm interested in a PhD program, but work full-time. Is that doable?
The students that I work with that work full-time do the program on a part-time basis. So 1 to 2 courses per semester, I think is what's typical for in that situation.
There are plenty of students who work full-time while doing this PhD program, even though it's designed to be 3 years and accelerated. A lot of the folks that I hang with are full-time employees. We've got one more question, but B, do you want to speak to that question?
I just echo what you said. I think one of the things to consider as you engage in working full-time and going to school, if you're thinking to do both full-time, is to really have a job in which your time is negotiable so that you can prioritize school when you need to prioritize school, and so that you can kind of still be able to commit to your professional commitments, kind of maintain those at the same time. So for the people that are in our program that I've talked to, part of their success is that they're able to flex their work schedule to meet the needs of basically of the program.
Thank you, B. And we have one final question. I think I did good. We got through almost everything in the time allotted. So thank you, panelists. Thank you, faculty, B and Bridget, for helping. What is the best way to gain experience within this field as an undergrad? Due to coronavirus pandemic, it is becoming difficult to get real life experiences and network with people in the field. So what advice, insights do you all have?
I'm working with several students this semester. I mean, there's a lot that can actually be done online. You're right, in terms of like volunteering with agencies, things like that, that's pretty difficult right now. And a lot of agencies are still closing their campuses or keeping them closed. But I would just reach out to faculty that have the interest that you have and see. I think you'd be surprised at the amount of work that's being done from our homes.
Yeah, Mike, did you want to add anything for the guests?
No, I think just the other stuff that we've sort of said in terms of like if you could get research experience via the honors and the major, any independent study, anything to get experience. And just remember, like that Claudia asked the question, right? So the other students who are applying have also been in the pandemic, and so they too have experienced the same kind of challenges. So I never be discouraged, like, oh my gosh, that's it, you're not going to be able to get in because of that. That's not. We're all trying to figure out, how to keep moving forward here.
Thank you for that, Mike. So we're at 3:15. Bridget, I believe this is our time now to wrap. So we'll go ahead and close out, but thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Dr. Donnelly, Dr. Armado, thank you, B, and thank you, Bridget. And to all of our guests, Bridget has dropped the link to our department in the chat, dropped the email. So please do not hesitate to continue to ask questions as you go through this process. It will be most helpful. Bridget, did you want to conclude with anything?
Yes, I just wanted to thank everybody for sticking around for our Q&A. A lot of really good information. I hope we were able to answer all of your questions. And as I mentioned before, feel free to reach out to me via email at sociadmissions@ucf.edu or reach out to Dr. Hawthorne or any of those faculty members on our list. And we'd be more than happy to answer your questions and to kind of help you through that application process. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.